Money FM 89.3, best of weekends.
Esquire Neighborhood is a combination of digital and offline talks, performances, workshops, games that features more than 20 speakers from 10 countries covering a variety of topics. Looks like quite an interesting way to gain some content.
Wonderful, Hollywood actors and Chinese American performers. It's a really impressive range of speakers they've got this weekend.
To talk about what's going on and how to access it, we have Mitchell Oakley Smith on with us. Mitchell is the editor-in-chief of Esquire Singapore. Mitchell, welcome to the show today. This is really exciting, what's going on with Esquire Neighborhood. Tell us about it.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. Esquire Neighborhood, it's underway. Actually, it started on Thursday, so we're about halfway through now. And we're super excited to have brought together this lineup of different events.
And tell us some of the guests that you've had so far. You had Ronnie Cheng, I believe, who's, of course, a very famous American-Chinese actor. Tell us about him and some of the others you've had so far.
Yeah, so Ronnie kickstarted the event on Thursday night, chatting with one of our editors, Wayne, and it was just sort of super interesting to get to know him. I think we kind of know the facade of Ronnie as a comedian on The Daily Show or, his character in Crazy Rotations. But it was nice to kind of sit down with him for an hour and learn about, his life back in Malaysia and Singapore and, how he got his start in comedy. And that's kind of what we want to do with these live video events is to, bring our audience sort of into contact with these people that we know, from stage or screen, but in a much more intimate way.
Mitchell, is it available anytime, or is it kind of appointment viewing? You got to get online at a certain time to catch somebody in the Esquire Neighborhood program?
It's sort of a mix of the both, Glenn. So the videos are going live at certain times across the weekend, but they are still available to view later on, if you want to go back and check out the highlights.
Yeah, what's the response been like so far with the viewers?
Well, we've had over 10,000 people come onto the site in the past 2 days. I mean, Esquire Neighbourhood is a landmark event for our publication. It's something that we do each year, and usually it's in person. So last year we had over 7,000 people attend.
Wow!
Of course, doing it virtually.
They all came to see me.
Indeed. I mean, you really can't gauge, what's going to happen, especially doing it in this online format. And, people are kind of, they're a bit fatigued by, all the Zoom conferences and online events that have been happening these past few months. So we've tried to make it as diverse and interesting as possible to give people something to come along for. And thankfully it's meant to rain this weekend, which is just brilliant because people will be inside watching Esquire Neighbourhood.
Well, that's an interesting point you make there, Mitchell, because Esquire Neighbourhood obviously traditionally has been just that. It's been this wonderful communal event, centered around various shop houses, lots of people integrating, sharing stories, drinking wine, lots of events. Obviously this year, by definition, out of necessity, it has to be the opposite of that in some ways. It's an online, individual kind of setup. What has been some of the challenges, the pros and cons of switching Esquire Neighbourhood from live to virtual?
Yeah, I mean, it is a challenge in that you've got to sort of gain and hold people's attention, and that's so much harder. When you're working in that online space, there's so much happening, and for audiences, there's so much on offer. So why tune into Neighbourhood when you can watch Netflix, for example? And that's why we kind of tried to bring together a really broad mix of speakers from around the world, and I guess that is the advantage of doing it in this format. Typically it's here in Singapore with locals, and that's still the case with Neighbourhood. There's still a lot of local talent that are taking part, but we've got speakers from LA and Sydney and London and New York, and sort of to be able to bring all of that together for our audience means that there's just so much more to take part in.
We're speaking with Mitchell Oakley Smith, the editor-in-chief of Esquire Singapore. And Mitchell, your colleague Edna just put the link on our Facebook Live page, esquiresg.com/neighborhood. And I just clicked onto there. It's a beautiful site, Neighborhood 2020, great graphics and all that. Is it just happening only from the Singapore version of Esquire, or is this happening across Esquires everywhere, around the world?
Yeah, no, it's just us. I mean, we're one of 22 editions of Esquire around the world, and this is unique to Singapore. But of course, people can tune in from wherever they are in the world. We're the only English language edition of Esquire in Asia, and I think that kind of puts us in quite a unique position because there are, lots of talent like Ronnie Chang or Harry Shum Jr. or Louis Tan who, sort of really talented guys in Hollywood, but they're not the type that necessarily get as much attention from, American or British magazines. So, we kind of feel a bit of responsibility to provide a platform for these stars, musicians, actors, comedians around the world that have Asian heritage because, it sort of connects back to our reader and where we're from.
That's wonderful. And maybe, as you said, you're halfway through at the moment. Give our listeners and viewers a bit of a taste of who you've got coming up today and tomorrow. Who should they look out for? Who should they sign up to watch?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm jumping off of this call to speak with Harry Shum Jr., who audiences would know from Shadowhunters and Glee. So that's on at midday. Later this evening, we'll be speaking with the American musician Lauv, which is super exciting. He's an incredible talent. And one thing I'm really looking forward to this afternoon as well is this four-way panel discussion. But between three thought leaders, I guess, about the marine plastic crisis and, providing some solutions and ideas and different innovations about how we might be able to really tackle that problem.
Wonderful stuff.
Mitchell, in past years, this neighborhood program, as you mentioned last year, you had 7,000 people come together and talk about a great way to build community, the Esquire community of readers and people who like the magazine and your content. How is it different to try to build or maintain that community when you're having to do this online for the first year?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, as you say, but at the same time, it does give us scope to broaden our community around the world. I think traditionally we just had the magazine, a print product that was available in newsstands here in Singapore. So our audience was limited to people that would pick up or read that magazine. But now with events like this that we can do through our digital properties, we've got so much more of an opportunity to broaden our audience. And I think that's, one of the huge opportunities and benefits of doing things in this virtual format.
And more broadly, Mitchell, how do you navigate COVID-19 and the changes imposed upon you when it comes to a popular, successful, established brand like Esquire? What have been some of the challenges through this year, both for your online and, of course, your established print version of the magazine?
Yeah, it's been tough. I've been in this job for 7 months as the editor of Esquire, and for 3 of those months, I did the job in Sydney before I could even actually get here because of travel restrictions. So, working on this publication with a team that I'd not met in person was certainly a challenge. But then, it's amazing how quickly we've all adapted to Zoom life and to working in this remote setting. And it's sort of, we don't even think of it as a challenge anymore. You can sort of everyone really has just gotten on with that. So I think, the time has certainly changed in that sense. But there's, of course, so many opportunities in working in this format. Our digital traffic for our website over the circuit breaker period grew by double digits, which is, I guess to be expected because people are at home. But it made us think. We need to be producing more content for our online audience because it's grown so much. So we need to keep servicing that. So the audience demands kind of keep shifting, and we just have to remain as agile as possible to respond to that.
Mitchell, that sounds like quite a challenge, if I'm hearing you correctly. Starting the job as the editor-in-chief of a magazine during a pandemic, that just seems like that's just mean. How have you survived? Yeah, you wouldn't recommend it, huh?
No. Moving country in a pandemic is not advisable. I'll tell you that.
Memo to self.
Yeah, I won't do that again. Singapore is not a hard place to live. I've discovered, and coming from Australia, there's actually a lot of similarities between the two countries. So settling in here has actually, to my surprise and delight, been a pretty seamless process, to be honest. In terms of the job itself, I come from publishing and have worked in magazines and on other projects. So I guess in that sense, it sort of knew how to jump in and get on with the job. It was more about just sort of making sure I understood the ethos of Esquire and making sure that I guess I'm in tune with what audiences here in Singapore want to see and that we're delivering that. So I've really relied on my team here in that sense.
Well, further to Glenn's point, and to sum up the surreal nature of this year, as most people know, I've written a column now for Esquire Monthly for several years, and this is the first time I've met Mitchell live on national radio. This is the first time I've seen his face. So, hello, Mitchell. Nice to meet you.
We really should have had that cup of tea in person, shouldn't we?
I've been writing for him for 6 months. This is the first time I've met him on national radio.
Hey, Mitchell, when you look forward to the magazine, now that you've sort of settled into your role, do you see any changes, either the format or the type of content, or what you think the audience would appreciate seeing going forward? What can we expect in coming months?
Yeah, I mean, we've made a few changes. I guess it's a constant work in progress, and that's kind of my mandate with any type of publishing project is to keep moving things along and keep surprising the reader. So we're constantly mixing up, for example, the paper stock, and it sort of sounds like something that's a bit dull, but it's something. I think when you are flicking through a magazine, when you've got this surprise of the way it feels, the different textures and things, it makes that experience just that little bit more special. And then, other things coming up for 2021, we are super excited about our February edition, for which we've commissioned a fiction special. So 6 Singapore-born authors are currently working on original short stories of their own choosing, but it's something that we've not done before, and I think is quite unique to Esquire because it's a magazine that does have that history of publishing short fiction. So I think that's something interesting, and people are always asking, what is the place of a magazine? Now that we live in this digital age, but I think that kind of a thing, a fiction special, is evidence of what makes a print project like this really still important and still special, and still has the power to entertain the reader.
Wonderful stuff. And Mitchell, for anyone listening who want to join some of the workshops, talks, seminars over the weekend at Esquire Neighbourhood, where should they go?
They should head to esquiresg.com, and you can find the full program, all the details, tune into the videos, the workshops. We've got Neil hosting a writing workshop later this afternoon.
What? Couldn't you find anybody any better than that? Jeez.
You see, I got the whole way through without once mentioning myself and the fact that I'm doing one at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
I'm as proud as a father could be, Neil.
I didn't mention the fact it's about social taboos. Do come along. It'll be a lot of fun. I haven't mentioned it once. 3 o'clock.
He hasn't.
Mitchell Oakley Smith, Editor-in-Chief, Esquire Singapore. Thanks so much for being with us today on Weekend Mornings. And we hope everybody will check out Esquire Neighbourhood and see what's in it for them.
Yeah, dude. Cheers. Thanks for having me.